I just told myself I'm now a person who trains. Mark shares a powerful moment in our conversation that he put together in the last 2 to 3 years. That simple mindset shift in his identity has literally transformed his life and how he looks, how he feels, and how he manages day to day to overcome any of the challenges and all the things that getting stuck in the rat race looks like for us guys in their 40s and 50s. And many of my listeners and clients come to me dealing with that, putting off the last 10 plus years of not being active and taking care of yourself has really not great impacts on your day to day quality of life or even how long you're going to live. I'm Coach Brian Piranha, and this is Driven for Health, episode 69. Join Mark and I as we talk, he and Rich, on their podcast, Mom, Dad's Got a New Tattoo. Looking forward to sharing this powerful interview we had with you. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Mum, Dad's Got Another Tattoo, the Midlife Crisis podcast. I'm Mark. Richard not here this week, very busy with his own business, but our guest, Brian Piranha, a health and lifestyle coach, is all about that stuff. But Brian isn't just a health coach, he's a transformative force for high-performing professionals who want their body, energy and mindset to match their ambition. He's also the host of the podcast Driven for Health, again focused on men's health, and delivers engaging, story-rich interviews that balance strategic advice with real-life transformation. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thanks. It's a beautiful introduction. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, me too. And when I look at the topics that you cover, health as a business strategy, habit and behavior change, there's many more there. That's right in our wheelhouse. And we said beforehand, if there was a Venn diagram of the subjects we want to cover between our two podcasts, ours would be a perfect circle. So great. It'd be great to hear your insight. And I mean, do you have an overarching philosophy when it comes to this, or do you take people on a case-by-case basis?
Well, the overarching idea is that I leave the person on the other side of me in a better situation than when I found them. That seems to be a really good general advice in life, right? The golden rule: do unto others as you love to be done to you. And I find that it works in my favor as well, right? If our conversation's enriching enough and you take a lot of value out of this and I offer a lot for you, then you'll like me even more after we're done here. Who knows what happens after? Maybe I come back on in a couple months, or who knows?
Yeah.
And then, yes, it does go to an individual basis because your life and my life, although we probably have a lot of similarities in our fees and stuff with kids and all the things that we find ourselves getting into by our fourth decade here. Your life is very unique to you and mine is to mine, but we can cross over with these experiences and connect and find solutions for the challenges that you are having. Because everyone has challenges and they all have problems that they are looking to get solved every day.
Yeah, that's right. And I know you've helped thousands of clients.
Yep.
Are there any common themes that run through the problems that they want to solve?
Yeah, definitely. I've young, old, healthy, sick, chronically ill, people who know a lot about this stuff and don't. In general, I've been in the health fitness industry for the last 23 years. Rocky Balboa, those training montages were the things that sucked me in back in high school. I started running and then I ran marathons. I did triathlons. I've owned gyms. I owned 2 CrossFit gyms for a season. And I've been doing online remote health nutrition coaching. And now I'm focused on men in their 40s, 50s to not just die with a bunch of money in their bank account or use it on healthcare because they're in such poor health, but we want to really thrive there. So the commonalities among humans is that we're overwhelmed, we're overbusy. The pace of life has quickened so much so even in the last year or 3, it feels like, as the advent of AI and all these things that are going on in our world. Us in Americas are challenging some interesting political things going on as well. And so we'll just leave it at that. But what's happening is that you have all these responsibilities with work, with kids, with everything, and you're not taking care of yourself. And that's the point at which I come and intersect into that. It's like, oh, shoot. A gentleman I was talking today with, he drops his kid off at a practice, goes at Panera, sits for 2 hours, just busts out the computer, starts doing this, gets another coffee, is probably 8th of the day or something because it's at night, and he just grinds at work, and that's it. It's either this or that, and we need to find a way that allows him to be put back into the health driver's seat in a sense so that he can manage all of the situations that are coming at him. Because if he's lean and agile in a sense and he can be bendable with the challenges that he faces every day, he will be more resilient. He'll have better ideas, better solutions that not only benefit him, but the people around him, and so on and so forth.
And do you think that what you described there is very familiar to me? My daughter plays netball. I have to drive all over the place and wait
Yep.
hours
Yep.
to do things. And you see a lot of the other parents with the laptop in the coffee shop
Yeah.
just over the road. You know, how much of that is a societal thing where we kind of put hard work and grafting and grinding on a pedestal, but we don't do the same about looking after yourself. That seems like a mad way to operate. And I've until the last 2 years have been exactly the same.
Yeah. Guilty as charged here. I'm not going to say that I have work life balance all figured out. Being a solopreneur, and I've been self employed for the last, I don't know, it's 2010 was when I
Mm.
shipped it out on my own. I've certainly had benefited from that in terms of like financial freedoms and time freedoms. And I was able to travel this whole world behind me with my family and 4 kids and all. But the challenges of it, the in betweens of getting enough money and helping enough people and all these things. And so we do fall into this. I think again, going back to our quickened pace in our society and life and the demands that we have, whether they're internal, a lot of people put a lot of internal pressure to work and work and work, but we also have external pressure of budgets and deadlines and goals and quotas and these things as well. Or shoot, my car broke down and I have, it's not a $500 bill this time, it's a $1,000 bill because the wheel thing is not doing well
Mhm.
and the engine thing is making a bunch of noise and it's a lot more expensive this time. So, oh shoot, I need to go make that money to pay for it.
And I guess the term work-life balance. So we used to talk about this at one of the businesses that I used to work at, where we had some people in their 20s and they spoke about work-life balance. And I always thought that there was this gap between, you know, what they thought work and then they go out and enjoy themselves, life. Whereas for people in their 50s, especially if you've got a family as well, work-life balance kind of means work balance with all the other stuff you got to do rather than, you know,
Right.
enjoying. Is that a fair trade-off, that we have to make? Is it a zero-sum game between, you know, all the stuff you gotta do personally
Absolutely
and
not. Absolutely not. It's not a good trade-off, right? We have 3 different frames of time that we have. We have the past, it's behind us. We want to remember all the good stuff that happened to us, learn from the other things that we made bad choices or bad things may have happened to us, right? We want to learn from those experiences. We have the present, it's just you and I right now talking and engaging and being fully present as much as possible and not distracted by this good old thing here, right? This
Mhm.
phone, this
Yeah.
walking rectangle. And then we've got the future, which is full of anticipation. I hope not an anxiety of, oh, shoot, I have all these things to do, but things to actually look forward to and move toward. My wife and I decided about 10 years ago we were going to travel a lot and spend our money and our time that way with our family, not buying stuff. I could have a nice car or something, but we've had 3 minivans in the last 15 years because so many kids. But we've been to all 50 states. We've been to multiple countries. We're going to Machu Picchu here in about 2 to 3 months. And so we're trying to live life as life is happening to us. And the way that you choose how you live your the day to day with your time, your priorities, how you spend money, how you allocate the energy and resources that you do have accessible to you can then create those opportunities if you're focused on them. But a lot of people aren't focused on them. They wake up, they go to work, they come home and they stare at another screen and there's no checking into actual what real life looks like. So they always feel like they don't have enough time. They always feel like they're just not doing anything. Lastly, is I'm on my kids right now, 16 to 10, three boys and a girl, but my oldest two, Levi and Everett, they have phones now, 16 and 15. And we waited until high school to actually give them phones because we knew it was going to be the end of being able to talk to them, right? But I'm on them so much about do not live your life 10 seconds at a time. That's what you're doing right now. And you're training yourself, and you're going to wake up 10 years from now wasting so much time, opportunity, and potential to create the life that you want because you're distracted by someone else wanting your attention. And I think that's a big issue that we're struggling with in our societies as a global community right now,
Mm.
for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think people listening to that will, especially about getting out there and don't waste time and go and see the world. And I think everyone would like to do that. Yet so few people do.
Yeah.
What are things that are standing in their way of being able to live a life that they want, do you think?
Self belief, self esteem, their ability to stay out of the trappings of things that happen to them now or in the past, or their lack of skills. Everything in our world is a skill set. You just need to learn. Just say us doing podcasts. I didn't have a podcast before September 23rd, 2025. 2025, but I had a full day open. I had one client and a full day open. I said, I probably should do something with this time, and therefore, I found out how to create my podcast on Riverside. And then now I have on Monday, I'll release my 68th episode. So I have
Wow.
figured out a skill on being able to use my abilities, my knowledge, my personability, my ability to connect with people. Because that honestly, that's all I've done for the last my whole career is connect with people in a personal way that resonates with them, that creates some, I always say, humor and sarcasm are along for the ride. So get ready because we need to make this fun and enjoyable so that then they enjoy that experience. And so we go back to self-esteem, lack of skills, and or even a lack of desire to create something for themselves because they've not been exposed to it, or they think they can't, or whatever.
And so how do you work on those aspects? I mean, if it's a lack of self-esteem is probably right up there, I would say. How does that manifest itself anyway? I mean, I don't, any of the roadblocks I've ever faced, and I don't think anyone would be surprised who knows me listening to this. I don't think self-esteem's ever been much of a problem. It's the maybe the reverse should have been the case, but I always felt that the time or the window that I've got to operate for myself is just so compressed, and that
Yes.
I'm juggling all these plates, and if I stop for 1 second, the whole thing's going to fall down.
Right.
That's how I felt for a long time.
Right. Something that goes into, say, time or stress management. And then the other underlying reason of any of this, say you wanted to change your health. That's what I primarily do is a health coach, nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, design, behavior changes. And I need to know your why. I need to understand what's the outcome? What is the goal? What's the reason behind this? Because then if I understand that, then I can start to anchor in new identities, new thought process, new patterns of behavior, and do it in a fun, enjoyable way that then creates the changes to happen for themselves. Then we also look at what are some of the most common constraints that you're having in your health or in your time, and then we have to prioritize what actually needs to happen versus what doesn't. Then can we what it's Eisenhower's matrix. There are certain things that you absolutely need to do right now. They're urgent and important. There are things that are important but aren't urgent. You schedule those appropriately and use time block and different time management strategies. There are urgent but unimportant. These are the things that come out of nowhere that people want done immediately or something, but we can learn to delegate or ship those off somewhere else. And then unimportant and unurgent, you don't do those things. And a lot of us are living in those two last areas, thinking that we're being productive, that we're being busy, but we're actually just spinning our wheels in a sense. I again fall victim to this being an entrepreneur and having squirrel. I feel like I've developed ADD or something over my life because it's just I'm hyper focused to these things, but also can create a lot of busy work for myself that doesn't need to happen. A simple example, you and I know we can get magic clips from this, little chopped up shorts, and I have 68 episodes that have at least 5 good ones from each of those. And you know how many I've posted? Probably like
Go on.
5, right? But I'm gonna go sit and then create a post that's gonna take 20 to 50 minutes worth of time from start to completion and post that and just create something new, which I can just leverage the thing that I already have, and it turns into a 10-minute opportunity instead of 50 minutes to create something new based off something that I already did. So I find myself in that rat race as well of just being
Yeah,
busy,
there's
busy sake.
Yeah, that's true. And I think something you said there about identity, I sort of stumbled across this method, if you
Okay.
like, which is so over. I used to be relatively active and sporty in my 20s and early 30s when I had the
Sure.
time.
Yep.
And then for about 15 years, I did absolutely nothing. And then I realized I needed to do something about it.
Mhm.
But in the intervening period, I had started and then stopped, and I subsequently have realised it was because in those stop-start periods, I was just, "Right, I wanna lose, like, 25 pounds in the next 6 months," and as the progress is not linear, you sort
Right.
of get disheartened and move away. But what changed for me is that I stopped saying that's what I wanted to do, and I just said to myself, "Right, I'm now a person who trains."
Yes.
That is it.
Yep.
And that small change, accidentally, I didn't know it would have this
Yep.
transformational impact on my life, but it has.
Yeah.
Um, but for some reason, I'm not applying it to other aspects of my life where,
Sure.
you think I am a productive person. I might think that I'm a busy person,
Yeah.
but I think that's different to productive. So how does that, and the clients you work with, that sort of self-talk, is that something that's very important in your approach?
Yeah, most definitely. We'll say, going back to the example, I am a fit individual, and I'm an active person, right? There's certain characteristics that go to that. Sometimes I'll have someone in our journey, our health journey, they are a smoker and they don't want to smoke anymore. Well, certainly there's smoke cessation programs, there's nicotine patches, there are all sorts of different ways to go about it. But if we don't address the root cause, then we don't have change. And a very simple shift in perception is exactly what you said is I am a non-smoker. And when we look through life in that lens, then we change our identity and our relationship to smoking. I'm a non-smoker. I don't think about cigarettes ever. So it's just not
Mm.
relevant to me. Even if I walk into the gas station and giving money to buy gas or whatever, and there's that giant wall of cigarettes, it's just like it's not there because I don't see that or I'm not filtering for that as an opportunity for myself. So understanding that like self-talk with people is super important. Language, words that people say give insights to what they're thinking and how they're framing this perception. So when I'm listening to people, because I've listened to thousands and thousands of people throughout the years, when I hear patterns start to show up, then I can start to ask questions or ask where did that come from, or you're saying it like this, what do you actually mean by it? And oftentimes it's what they meant wasn't even, say, the words didn't even align with what they meant. Like I want to have a snack or something, or I failed because I had a snack. Well, what do you actually mean by that? Because it's the snack isn't the point of failure. Like, let's go back a little bit, rewind this, and start unpacking some of that self talk or the thought processes, patterns of behavior.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, one of the things I guess that people listening to this may say were in term especially with fitness and health is I'm gonna create an archetype here of someone saying, "Well, it's all very well for you, you're a
Yeah,
fitness professional, or it's all very well for you, Mark, because, you work from home a lot. What about
right.
me?" Now, actually, something's gonna change for me in the next, few days, which is gonna put that under pressure, which is I'm going to have a really long commute into London 5 days
Okay.
a week.
Yeah.
And it is going to put pressure on
I
my
noticed this.
regime.
Yep.
Now, I think that is going to be okay because of my identity of someone who trains. But if you're somebody who hasn't quite got there yet, how would you advise someone to manage the busyness of it?
Yeah. We start looking at where their opportunities lie. Every person in the world is going to tell you that they're busy, right? They're able to fill their time. But are they actually truly busy doing things that are productive toward the overall outcome of whatever their life experience desire is? And lots of people waste lots of time. So we can start finding these nuggets of time. A really simple one is getting people to even just walk at lunch or go take that
Mm.
lunch hour and actually stop working and go do something with it because they're not getting paid to work usually over their lunch break. So why don't you stop and do something for yourself rather than keep working and lowering your hourly wage? That doesn't make a lot of sense, right? It'd be different if, again, you go on self employment and every hour is billable in a sense, but then you still have to have some confines around when you're working, when you're not, to have some sense of a life in and of itself. So we're going to find little nuggets of time in the day to start to fill it with active, productive measures that move them toward their health goals. That's going to be the first part. So we can just even, all right, Mark, here's what we're waking up and we go to bed. Those are finite times because you definitely have to have a bedtime if you're going to be commuting so much because you need to be awake when you're driving. So
Yeah.
so we need a certain amount of sleep. So 24 minus that amount of sleep, ideally at least 6, right? 6 to 7 is pretty much it. Then from there, then we start to, okay, I have this much time to drive. I have this much time allocated toward this. There will be time in the day that you can allocate toward doing something for yourself rather than just filling it with more busy work. Or another example is we can start to delegate different tasks. Example being, if your time is now full with commute, you should not be going to the grocery store. In a sense, you can have food delivered to your house. Let's set that up. And that actually reduces a significant amount of time because you can go on to the computer, click, order, deliver at a time that's convenient for you to be able to sort and manage the food at your house. And then you just freed up more time. So we have to think about doing day to day life differently in a way to create more opportunities for you to do things for you.
Yeah, that makes sense. And how much of the overwhelmness, if that's a word,
Yep.
that people feel,
Sure.
especially when starting to get fit, and this is one of the things that I realised early on. I say early on in this phase. It took me like 40 odd years to actually work it out. But you don't actually have to do as much as maybe you think you do. That
Yeah.
you'll see programs that say, right, 4 times a week in the gym, resistance training, and I think that does work. But if you're a beginner and you're doing this for the first time, are you a supporter of, you know, short but maybe intense workouts? So, you know, maybe even if they're 20 minutes long, that is better than aiming
Certainly.
for 4 hours but end
Cer
up doing zero. And the way it worked for me is that, so I started doing these shorter times because I hated going to the gym. I really didn't. Like, I preferred playing sport, but I couldn't
Yeah.
commit to being in the same place at the same time. And I ended up, oh, all right, I'll go to the gym. But after a while, what I found was I was doing these 20 minutes, but lo and behold, as I started to like doing it and it became a habit, I magically found time to do it. And so I've always advocated to people, if they are going to start doing that sort of stuff, make it manageable, at least at
Yeah.
first, like 20 minutes, even if it, but so if you're doing weights, for example, try and go to failure. I mean, that'll happen quite quickly to the untrained individual.
Right.
And that's enough. Get out of there, recover.
Mhm.
Is that something that you see as an effective tool?
Oh, totally. And time and intensity have a direct relationship. You have less time, you generally should go more intense. But to the degree at which you use what tool in the toolbox do you use to facilitate the exercise, the burning of calories, the body transformation ultimately that you're going for can vary widely and greatly depending on each individual person and their overall goals. So for you, said like, I don't really like to go to the gym that much. Okay, well, I'm going to then ask you a series of questions that get us to I like doing this thing and I can do this thing for 20 minutes. Why? Because I want to link up joy, positivity, and connection around you taking that time and doing that exercise or that activity, no matter how hard or how easy it is. On my Driven for Health podcast, I have 3 guys in my 100-day fat loss challenge. The goal is to lose 20 plus pounds in 100 days and do it through nutrition, through exercise, through your identity shift, changing your mindset, having a brotherhood, some support. Those are the 5 pillars that I take my guys through. And on episode 34, Lucas. On episode 43, Mike. On episode 53, Andy. These 3 guys, and I wrap all that up in episode 60, where they lost 98 pounds in 100 days between the 3 of them, doing simple next step things. Mike, episode 43, he said the linchpin that made the difference for him this time to go from 340 to 310 in the 100 days was I ate until I was 80% full. Pretty wild.
Mm.
He walked, he went to the gym randomly. It wasn't even, I couldn't get him consistently to the gym because it didn't work. He had 2 young kids. He had a lot of knee pain. He actually has consultations about getting a knee replacement at some time in the future. So I can't run this guy. I can't have him do intense 20-minute circuits or something. I need to control what he has. Lucas went from 240 to 210, and we've been a little bit less than that now because we're still working it. We're going to get to 190. This guy barely worked out in gym. I got him into the gym, and as we went, he reaffirmed his love for running. And then I asked him if he should get into a running club. And then he did, and he enjoyed it. And now he's becoming a runner. He's changing that identity. So Saturday mornings and maybe once or twice in the week, he will go run. And he's actually thinking about doing a marathon this year, which is wild because he would have
Wow.
never, if I would have asked him that very first day that I met him, hey, Lucas, because we're working together, you're going to consider running a marathon. He'd be like, that's a load, Brain. That's crazy. And then Andy, we really anchored in 10K a day. That was a huge facilitator to get him to shift his identity. Hey, I can do 10K a day, which turned in, if you do simple math, 10K steps over 100 days is 1,000,000 steps. He got to
Bloody hell.
about a streak of 87. He's like, Brian, I'm about to take 1,000,000 steps. He was mind blown. And I didn't even think of it that way because I've just always generally do 10K steps on average. But that was the key shift. So I was able to find easy hooks in a way to get these people to transform in a significant way without being incredibly disrupted to their life. Oh, you need to do this 5-day gym routine. You need to eat these specific foods at these times. No, because we're using science-backed information implemented into their day-to-day life in the easiest way possible because I need it to be enjoyable. I need it to last. I need it for years to come that they're able to maintain their progress through the work that we did, not just, oh, I'm going to lose 26 pounds again or something. And then it slowly comes back on. Like, let's not
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, and I think the nutrition side of it is
It's huge.
80% of the
Hmm.
problem. And I saw some, so I can't remember the number, but we're making a stupid amount of micro decisions around nutrition every single day, like whether to
Totally.
have, you know,
Yep.
sugar in your coffee. One of your learning topics, smart nutrition for busy professionals. I'd love to hear your approach to that as well, because many
Yeah.
people listening to this will be at the office on Monday and someone will put a stack of donuts down because it's someone's
Uh-huh.
birthday. What do you do? Do you
Yeah.
eat? Do you not? What happens?
Right. I love that. Let's dive in. Well, episode 61, I went over beating decision fatigue when it comes to food. So if you want in-depth detail, you could go listen to that episode and
Yeah,
you'll go over a
we'll link
lot
to
of
that
stuff.
in the show description
Yeah.
as well. So it sounds like it'd be really
So
useful. But
decision
go
fatigue
ahead,
is
sorry.
true, right? Oh, do you know what you're gonna eat today, Mark?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Good. And now, do the
But
majority of the people that you are listening into your show know what they're gonna eat today?
I would say probably not. And
Probably not.
also I'm going to say I'm going to answer as Mark in a week's time where I'm commuting
Yes.
and
Yes.
my whole life and the problem I probably won't even think about dinner until I get home at about
Exactly.
7:30. Right?
Yep.
So that is
Yep.
and you know what? There's a takeaway around the corner. Could go there every day if I wanted to.
There's always someone. We've got DoorDash here. So let's
Yeah.
go pay 10, 15 extra dollars to get lukewarm food delivered to you. Awesome. Great use of
Yeah.
your time, energy, and money, right? wait, I need to work an extra whatever amount of time to make that money to buy this lukewarm food that gets delivered to my house because I was unplanned and prepared. And there's a simple PPA, plan, prepare, act. So we have to go into your everyday life and understand, how do we plan? How do we get prepared better to be able to act better? So it goes back to slowing down to be able to then speed up. I've slowed down. I spent a lot of years just self assessing nutrition myself, which then gives me the tools, the resources, the ability, the experience to be able to connect with anyone on their nutrition, their fitness, their lifestyle, all these things, or the busyness of their everyday. They're sat in staring at their computer at 7 p.m. as their kids are playing sports or something. All right. Because I've lived it, I experienced it, and I've coached through it. So when we have choices around our food, you need to eat at least 3 times a day most of the time. And what we want to do at the very basic is have 2 or 3 go-to meals at each, at the very least, a breakfast and lunch. And if you do that and you have those, it doesn't really matter what's in the fridge or what food you put in your mouth, because we talk about nutrition, not diet. Nutrition is the education, the understanding, the application to the diet, the foods that you eat every day. And then we have to fit it into your lifestyle. So we could have a number of different breakfasts. It could be a smoothie breakfast, omelet breakfast, oatmeal breakfast. We could do cottage cheese. There's a bunch of last night's leftovers. Those could be 5 different opportunities for you to be able to have a go-to meal that takes very little time and energy to put on a plate, in a bowl, in your mouth. Then we go to, say, lunch. For my busy guys, honestly, say, hey, do you like sandwiches? And I mean, who doesn't like a sandwich, right? So if I had to go work and leave my house and go to a place, I'd probably go back into my 1980s childhood and buy a lunchbox that had probably the Ninja Turtles on it. And then that would be my lunch pail that I take to work, and it would have a sandwich with adequate amount of protein, a fruit, a vegetable, and that would be it. And then I'm good. I eat what I pack. So we go back to that then other example of food being in the boardroom, the break room, the donuts, the whatever gets brought in. Oh, we're buying lunch today. Well, we have to decide where you are on those things and your allowances to be able to let those external marketing come and influence your internal decisions. If you operate by the idea of I eat what I pack and I don't eat anything else, it doesn't matter what comes into the office, right? Because
Yeah.
I already have my lunch right here. Hey, I
Yeah.
appreciate you inviting me out, but my lunch routine is I eat 5 minutes before I get on break, and then I go to the gym and work out in that small sliver of time that I have, or I walk around the building outside and get some air to take a break, and then come back on work on the hour and then get back to it, right? Hey, if you want to join me, Mark, please, I'd love to have a workout buddy or someone to walk and talk with and not just be out there by myself. But this is what I do. This is how I operate. And someone who is active and identifies that way, I would hope that you're like, oh, that is a good way to go about my lunch break in a sense. So there's a lot of different ways that we can prioritize it. But also lastly is that if that special donut or special cookie or whatever comes into the office does show up, then maybe you allow yourself a portion of it or whatever can check that box and you're good. But you can't have Monday, someone brought donuts in, Tuesday, someone brought cookies in, Wednesday, Jan brought her famous whatever recipe. On Thursday, it's someone's birthday. On Friday, the office is buying. And you packed your lunch too. You have to decide what you're
Yeah.
doing there.
Yeah. Well, I think if you decide ahead of time, it
Yeah.
works. It works really well.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to decide in the moment, I think that's
Always.
the decision fatigue isn't just around the amount of decisions you have to make, but when you make them.
Yes.
But also, sometimes I think you can get in your own head about what people in the office might think if you say, "Oh, I'm not going to have a donut." And the truth is, no one really cares about whether you eat a
Ultimately.
donut or not.
Right.
And
Right.
but I'm saying that from someone who realizes it. I'm highlighting it to
Yep.
those
This is
people
a real thing.
listening, and yeah, it's a real thing, and I think it's a valid feeling that you have, but
Yes.
it doesn't reflect the reality. I don't think, and
Another good example, real quick, with this, to piggyback on that specific sentiment, and why I'm throwing this out there is, say, McDonald's, right? McDonald's is over in your neck of the woods, the same as mine,
Yep.
right? McDonald's wants you to show up in their place breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the snack and the late night meal as well. So just come for every single time that you eat, come to McDonald's and eat their food, right? That's literally what McDonald's wants to do. But are you going to listen to them just because they want you to come in? No, you're not spending however much money every single day, every single week eating their food just because they're saying, hey, you should come into our place and buy our food that we have processed for you. It'd be the same difference. So if we can find analogies or different type of situations like that, then it can make it a little bit easier. Lastly on this is, say you go out to the bar with your buddies and they keep trying to get you to drink another one and another one, another one. At some point, you just like, hey, Mark, I'm having a really good time with you, but you're not going to be holding my hair back at 3 a.m. when I'm barfing all this stuff up. And I'm really having a really bad day tomorrow, right? You're not going to comfort me and tuck me in or any of that stuff either, right? So we have to have some self perception in that
Mm.
situation.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I'd like to spend a bit of time, if I may, talking
Yeah.
about traveling with your family.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, on the one hand, that sounds like an absolute brilliant idea. You've probably created so many great
Oh,
memories over the time. On the other hand, people might say, 4 kids in a minivan. Wow.
yes, yes, it is not necessarily for the faint of heart always, okay? I have driven tens of thousands of miles, my family across the US. I reside in Akron, Ohio. To give reference to where that is or a famous thing, home of LeBron James. Most people know who that guy is in basketball.
Yep.
He and I are the same age. Too bad we weren't buddies in high school, right? So I live in Northeast Ohio, just a little south of Cleveland, right under Lake Erie. But we have driven to Florida probably 50, 60 times. We've driven to Yellowstone in an RV. Our very first trip, we drove down to see bats underneath the bridge in Austin, downtown Austin. My oldest son said he wanted to do that. My wife has wanderlust and just wants to go everywhere. And we did a 10-day trip and just stopped off at all the major cities, spent the night, did the thing that was in the area, ate the food that was in the area, and then went on to the next spot. And so we've been literally all over, and it's such an amazing experience. But there are times where I remember this gigantic monument. This was probably somewhere out in, let me reflect on which vehicle I was in. I was in a minivan, which I was probably headed out toward Iowa or Missouri, but we had this giant hands. We don't go, so we see all sorts of quirky things. The world's largest this, and oh, like let's stop off at this exit because this looks fun, or whatever. But they had these like praying hands that I remember in front of a church. It's just like the largest hands, praying hands, was that was it. But I'm out there reflecting. It's like, God, I'm paying a lot of time and money to feel this way. So it has it, but with anything in life, there's going to be ups and downs. Can't I know that there's been challenges. My wife threatened to send myself and my oldest home while we were in Zion National Park in Utah, and she's like, "I'm going to drop you off at Salt Lake City, 3 hours away, and send you both home because I can't put up with you anymore, and I'm going to continue and drive the rest of the trip." Right? So there are those experiences, but then also now we can look back and reflect on them and laugh on them. That's just humans being humans and being in tight quarters and just expressing each individual personality with so many kids, right? We have 15 relationships in our household. Not all of them are going the same direction always, but that's just life. And
Yeah.
having to be with people, having to meet with them, to adjust, pivot, and work through challenging situations and stuff. That's just part of life. And so I have so many enriched experiences as a result of that being part of our family history together, and so many memories around that I can now link back to my kids on. And lastly, I told my oldest, he's an adventure seeker, I said, "Hey, buddy, I'm really sorry that you've experienced so much in your youth. By the time you're 25, your dopamine is going to be crash and burn to the ground in a ditch somewhere, and nothing more than like jumping, doing a space jump is gonna be enough for you because you've experienced too much." But good luck with that.
Yeah. Do you know what?
Space
I
between.
actually I find that heartening in more than one way. First of all, it's great that you've done that with your family. I also quite heartened by the this idea of the American highway being littered with these really strange attractions, like the most, I don't know, rubber
Yes.
ducks in a bath somewhere,
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
or a house that looks like a dinosaur. That almost seems like a throwback to a different age. So, and that's something that really it reminds me of a time. I mean, we touched on politics a little bit. I used to really want to live in America in the 80s
yeah,
and
okay.
90s, and informed by films and
Yeah,
TV. But of course, over the last few years, my relationship has with America has become more complicated.
agreed. So is mine.
So yeah, that sort of that those wholesome things that still exist. I think we
Yeah.
need to be reminded of that
Yes.
a little
Yes.
bit more, um, and let's sort of embrace that life is still there, if that makes sense. I'm not entirely
Yeah.
sure where I'm going with that, but it's just
Well,
a
yeah, at
sense.
the very end, we have a certain amount of people that get a lot of notoriety or they're seen a lot for a number of different reasons. But the vast majority of people, and this is something that I can personally say because I've literally been to multiple countries and continents around the world, is that we are, as a human race, as a human being, we're looking to live happy, joy filled lives around people that we love and want to have an experience rich life. We don't want to be overtaxed, overburdened, overworked. We don't want these things. And it's unfortunate that a select few have call a lot of attention. You know,
Mm,
obviously America came from Britain, even that in and of itself, right? So it's just like,
mm.
but humans just want to live a happy life. That's what
Yep,
I've
that's
taken away from all my travels and experiences.
yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Brian, if people want to hear more from you and Driven for Health and
Yeah.
understand Lucas, Mike, and Andy's journey and that
Yeah.
decision fatigue, where can they find you?
Yeah, well, you can find me at Driven for Health. Here's my shameless plug. My wife and kids got this for a Christmas present, but I'm on Apple, Spotify, and all the other ones as well. Driven for Health. At this point, I'm releasing an episode every other day, and I'm going to keep that pace until I burn out.
Wow.
But I'm going to keep keep working it to grow that and get more Brian out there in a positive way and impact people's real lives. So it talks about men's health, nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, a lot of mental health, all sorts of different things a guy in their 40s can identify with because I'm literally 43 going through these things. Even say loneliness. It can get lonely because you're so surrounded by piled up by all these responsibilities that you have self isolated, not on purpose, but because of the responsibilities and the way that you view how you're supposed to go about solving them and staying busy or any of the things that we talked about. So there's that. You can catch me on the socials at Coach Brian Piranha. And then I have a men's group, 100-day fat loss challenge to help get you in some of the best shape you've been in the last 5 to 10 years. And we focus on your identity, we focus on food, exercise, your mindset, the way you think about stuff. And ultimately, you're doing it with a bunch of other Brian and Marks, in a sense, a bunch of other guys that are experiencing the same life experiences and want to figure out a better way approach. So that's the call to rise.com. That's my program. That's what I do. So there you go.
Excellent. We'll put links to all of those things in the show description. Please go and check them out. Really great to talk to Brian. If any of you have any reflections on this, please get in touch on our own socials. That's Dad's Got Another Tattoo on Instagram or Dad's Got Another Tattoo at gmail.com. All that's left for me to do is thank you very much, Brian, for your time. Really great insights
Yes.
there and really enjoyed our conversation, which has flown by. I know
Yeah.
only that's always a good sign. But thank you
Yes, it
to
is.
Brian and thank you to everyone who's listening. But for now, we'll leave it there and catch you on the next one. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
That's a wrap on this powerful conversation about identity and really stepping up as a man you want to be identified with and seen to, most importantly, yourself in the mirror, how you think about yourself and the people around you, your family, your coworkers, your business, the community you surround yourself with. I encourage you to go listen to Mom, Dad's Got a New Tattoo podcast. You can find it on Apple and Spotify. I'll have the links to the show notes and listen to these great guys as they explore the challenges and excitements of middle life as a man. I'll be excited to also bring you episode 70. It's going to be 5 protein-packed breakfasts to start your day and help you be more productive in your work day and every other area of life than you've been this next week, than you felt in the last even couple months. So tune into that. I'll catch you in episode 70.